to the Sharp Betting Pod presented by Odds Jam with your hosts Randall and Steve. You can follow us on Twitter at SharpBettingOJ. We are back for episode 3 this week to prepare you for the NFL this Sunday. For today's episode, we are going to go through each NFL game and talk about the opening lines and compare them to the power ratings that Steve has that we've been talking about on the last couple of episodes. Steve, how's it going?
It's going well. Not my best weekend of betting in the NFL, but, those weekends happen. And as we know, usually the week after you're red hot, you come back to earth. And that was the case for me last week. But, NFL's a grind, man. So we move onward and upward, I guess. Time for
for sure.
Yeah, time for week 6.
Yeah, so, like you said, the NFL is, probably one of the toughest sports there is to beat. The lines are obviously very sharp, and you can never get too high or too low when betting NFL. That's for sure. So, in Thursday's game, we've got Tampa Bay at Philadelphia. Tampa Bay is -7 in this game. There's been some reports that Brady has a thumb injury. I would assume he plays in that game. Tampa Bay coming off of a 45-17 win against Miami. That was a spot where I thought maybe, they might be a little bit flat like we talked about. And, they really turned it on in the second quarter, outscored Miami 17-0. And then, the Eagles, that game was very similar to when the Panthers played the Jets. And they were able to hold on. Yeah, and Panthers held on in the first one, and they couldn't hold on in the second one. So, Tampa Bay -7. What do you make this line based on your power ratings?
Yep. So I kept the Bucs the same as last week. They're still my number one team, rated at 107.5. I had the Eagles low last week. That was my single biggest discrepancy of the year in the Panthers. It was looking great through the first half, like you said, but then, the Eagles came back, and I think that was more of the Panthers' just inability to just execute second half. We can talk about this on the next pod, but yeah, Panthers, that's been their MO. And I touched on it in the video I made. They've been a great first half team when, Darnold can execute the script, but once, those first 20 plays are gone and he's on his own, he's been horrendous. And he was absolutely god-awful in that second half. I was really high on Carolina in that game, so I had no choice but to upgrade Philadelphia. So I upgraded them by half a point. So I still have this game as Tampa -9.5. So a little bit of value on them. I don't know if we'll be playing it just because of the Brady injury and, some, just not knowing there. But as reports come in, if he looks good in practice, could potentially be on the Bucs. I really like the Bucs on a teaser, if anything. I think they're a good teaser leg. But, we'll see what happens in that game. I'm not a huge fan of betting Thursday night games as it is, as I know you're not.
Yeah, no, I'm not at all. And, actually, I did make a bet today. I made a video earlier, posted it on the Odds Jam YouTube. If you haven't checked that out, make sure you do. There was a play that lined up, kind of with my handicapping on the under 52.5 in this game. I made this total around 50.
I like that look.
We'll see. Tampa Bay obviously coming off of, 45 points at home, back on the road. We'll see. The next game, second game in London this year. I don't have anything to say about this game. Let's make this quick. Miami -3.5. What's your line?
So I have it Miami -3 on a neutral. I'm the same. Both these teams are garbage. Miami was a huge disappointment. I cannot back the Jags, and actually, breaking news, Gruden fired. So for everyone who had their high hopes on holding that Urban Meyer 50-1 ticket, I'm sorry, that's not getting home. God, I wonder what Gruden was. He had to be like 100-1.
Was he even offered?
Probably not. He had a 10-year contract, and that was all guaranteed. So, Yeah, it's crazy, but I mean, what he said was pretty awful. So I can't blame him. I mean, bottom line, you can't say stuff like that in 2021 and expect not to have repercussions. Gruden was canceled.
Yeah, well, and one of the angles that I look at, we can go more in depth, you know, our next pod, but I always like to back the fired coach angle. Take the team,
For
that fires
sure.
the coach the following week, and I was really hoping that maybe Jacksonville would have let go of Urban Meyer last week or even this week. Not advocating for somebody to lose their job, but if they're going to get rid of them, you like to back those teams, but I think this situation with Vegas is a little bit different. I think they quit on him last week. I think that was very evident
Yeah,
against the Bears. And
exactly. Yeah,
you
yeah.
may get a good performance, but yeah, we'll see. So, speaking of dumpster fires and you know some absolute trash in the NFL, Cincinnati against Detroit. Cincinnati, I think, has kind of exceeded expectations a little bit. Probably should have won that game against Green Bay. I mean, was it 5 consecutive missed kicks out of both teams? In Detroit, as we talked about last week. I mean, there's no way that I can possibly back them. However, this is a spot that we alluded to last week. Cincinnati out of conference road game, followed by a divisional road game. The next week. So probably have to look at the Lions in this spot. The Bengals are at the Ravens the next week, so
Right.
I think it'll be Lions or pass. But since he's minus 3.5, then what do you make that line?
Yeah, I have it Cincy 4.5. I'm a little bit higher on Cincy, I think, than the market. And that was a good performance by them last week. But I'm with you. I almost have it as a rule that I'll never play a small road favorite in the NFL. So a -3 on the road, I'll just never ever bet that. I mean, you know, the most likely scenario of this game is probably Cincy by 3 anyway. So you're looking at a push. But yeah, this is just a complete stay away from me. Um,
Yeah,
I
and
yeah.
I know you're not looking to back the Lions, that's for sure.
No.
So
Although I'll tell you what, I mean, to their credit, they could have easily quit last week, and they came back and they actually ended up killing my teaser. And that's what you get for waiting. You could have had them -1.5 if you bet it at the opener. You wait and you get screwed. So yeah, I mean the Lions, but no, I mean there's a big difference between backing them in basically a must-win game, in a line that's 3 or less, than backing them gobbling up double digits. So yeah, I can't.
right,
I probably can't.
yeah, yeah,
I probably can't go there.
yeah, big difference there. KC at Washington. KC's minus 6.5 in this one, coming off of the embarrassing loss against the Bills on Sunday Night Football. You know, I'm not sure this Chiefs team is that good. I think the Super Bowl hangover is real. I've addressed that many times this year. Um, what is your line on this game?
Yeah, I've given them a pass through the first 5 weeks or through the first 4 weeks. I had to downgrade them by a full point after that. I mean, the defense is historically bad. It's worse than the putrid Lions, than the putrid aforementioned Lions. I mean, it's a complete and utter sieve. Something looks wrong with Mahomes. I mean, I know that we mentioned that when we were watching that game against Baltimore. Like there's something about his demeanor that looks off. It's hard to quantify it, but I mean, he's a turnover machine this year. I mean, the Chiefs had some chances to get back into that game, and in the second half, and he just had turnover after turnover. He had an interception where they could have cut it to single digits, and then at the end of the game, I mean, they had a prayer if they would get a stop, and he fumbled, and yeah, so I finally had to bite the bullet and downgrade them. So I have this as KC -6, pretty much on market. Maybe half a point of value on football team, but I mean, KC. You would think that they're due just to blast somebody. I mean, they did against Philly 2 weeks ago, but yeah, I mean, the football team's defense is extremely overrated. I think by this point, you know, the market has come to realize that. There was a lot of smoke and mirrors last year. Um, will KC lose this game? If they do, they're in serious trouble because LA is not going away.
No.
So, I really do like this as a teaser leg, as square as that may be. I just can't see them lose. And this is a kind of game where, if they lose, that would be a bet that I would just accept the loss on. I think maybe a KC Tampa Bay type of a teaser. Teasers, I know you're not a fan. I mean, I like them, like doing the long teasers, where you're teasing a favorite down across 7 and across 3, just to win the game, or taking like a dog of 3 up past 7, up to 10, or, past 4, past 3. And I was undefeated until last week when, the Vikings burned me. So we'll see. But that's the way I'm leaning for that game, KC and a tease.
Yeah, and speaking of Minnesota, they travel to Carolina this week. Um, this line is Carolina -1. The look ahead over the summer was a pick 'em. An interesting trend here, though, with the Minnesota Vikings. And again, trends take them for what they're worth. This obviously isn't the same team, year in and year out. But the Vikings are actually 0-15-1 when they play against winning teams outdoors. So, Carolina has a winning record. That would fall under this category. For that trend, I think if McCaffrey's back, I think that that's a solid play maybe on Carolina. But man, it was tough to watch Sam Darnold. So, what do
Yeah.
you make this line?
Yeah. So, I was very high on Carolina coming into the year. I bet their season win total over. I was loving how they looked after the first 3 weeks. Um, I make this Carolina -3. I like Carolina again, but I'll tell you what, with Carolina, if I'm going to be betting them this year, I'm going to be betting them first half only. So what's probably going to happen is I'm going to bet them first half, and they won't cover first half, and they'll cover the game. Really piss me off. No, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I'm taking Carolina full game just based on that. We've seen it too many times.
Yeah, no, I mean, I touched on it on my video. I mean, I split the bet like 25%, 75%, so I still lost in the game. But yeah, I mean, moving forward, I mean, just because, going back to what I said, just the way how Rule and Brady script Darnold, I mean, if you look at their first 5 games, I mean, their point differential in the first half, their average margin of, I guess, lead, in the first half is 11 points. So, they've been destroying these first half numbers, but the second half, they've been stagnating, or, in the last game, the wheels just fall completely off. So, yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to go back to the well just because, this Minnesota team, speaking of, odds of coaches fired, besides Meyer and Taylor in Cincinnati, Zimmer is a co-favorite, or was a co-favorite. So he's in the hot seat, and I think the team's pretty much sick of him by this point. So, yeah, and they're a team that historically is a lot better at home. As I touched on in our first podcast, they have a serious home field advantage. On the road, not so much. Like especially outdoors, they're a dome team. So yeah, I like Carolina. They're going to be on my card for the contests, and there'll be a cash play that I'm going to split between first half and full game.
Going back down that road. So hey, you heard it here first. First half loser and full game winner. So
Yep.
um, Texans Colts. Not a whole lot to say about this one. Two teams going in the wrong direction. Although the Colts look pretty solid tonight. And a win in this game against Baltimore could go a long way. The Titans obviously have a tough matchup against the Bills. That could be a key game, in this AFC South division. But, Texans coming off of, I don't know if you'd call it a heartbreaking loss to the Patriots, but, Mills actually didn't play too bad in that game. I
No, he
was
didn't
just,
at all.
he bashed him, on here, but he didn't play too bad. Colts -10 right now. Obviously that is, totally subject to change, depending on this outcome of the game and, any injuries. But, as of today, what do you make that line?
Yeah, so before I made any adjustments for this game, um, I didn't adjust Houston at all for that performance. I mean, we were on them +8. That game went exactly, as we thought. Texans would um, keep it close, but ultimately lose. I mean, I shouldn't say exactly as we thought. I was pretty shocked at the beginning of that game. Even though we liked them to cover, I didn't expect them to come out and take it to the Pats offensively. But they pretty much pulled every trick out of the bag there. So yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna have to upgrade Indy by at least half a point because this is an impressive performance tonight. But I have them Indy -12 as it is, so it's close. I mean, really, this week I don't have much discrepancy. There's only two instances of games that have more than that key 3.5 points. Um, so I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big fan of laying double digits in divisional games at this point of the season. Is it warranted? Probably, just because Houston's that bad. But especially now with, if Indy blows the Colts out, the last thing I want to do is go back a big home favorite, coming off an impressive Monday night win. So this
Yeah,
game's going to probably be a
absolutely.
pass for me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So moving on to the next one, Rams Giants. I know we liked the Giants last week, and you know, Barkley goes
Yeah.
out early. Jones gets hurt or has the concussion. Galladay ends up exiting the game. I mean, you obviously can't handicap injuries, and that's a cluster of injuries now with Shepard and Slayton. I don't know. Rams are -10.5 in this game. I don't know how you even begin to put a number on this game from a power rating standpoint. I personally think 10.5 is too high. Um, but you know, I just don't know that I can back the Giants, in this particular spot. Again, we've talked about the road home splits.
Yeah.
The difference there, in those. There's definitely a difference, but I mean, do you really want to go to war with Mike Glennon? I just, I don't
Yeah.
know.
And
It's a
yeah, that's really the question: is what's the downgrade from Jones to Glennon, right? And
right.
I mean, I was as high on Jones as anybody, so I make it a 4 point downgrade. Interestingly, this line opened at 6.5, and it was immediately bet up to 10.5. So, I agree. I mean, my power ratings, even downgrading the Giants 5 whole points, so 4 for Jones, and then 1 for Barkley. And now you make a fair point of the wide receiver cluster injury. That's really hard to quantify. I mean, because I only have a handful of players outside of the quarterbacks who are worth the point. Barkley is one of them. Um, but yeah, I mean, a cluster injury definitely has to be accounted for as well. So I mean, so even if you subtract 6 points, which is a ton from week to week, um, you know, the highest I could still make this line would be the Rams -7. And that's after I upgraded the Rams a point. I mean, I was low on them coming into the season. They've pretty much proven me wrong. I mean, I was on Seattle on Thursday as well. I mean, obviously there's no way to account for injuries, right? So I mean, Wilson goes down, Jones goes down. It's two brutal ways to lose bets, but it goes both ways. You just hope at the end of the season you're on, the opposite side of the injury as much as you're on it, where it at
Right.
least breaks even, hopefully.
Right.
But that's the breaks the ball game. But I mean, the thing that I did like, I mean, that hit the Jones was brutal. I mean, he got up and he was like, a baby deer, the way how he was hobbling. But his team came to his side. Like he has a lot of respect in that locker room. And there's the old injured player theory of backing the team the week after they lose the quarterback. But this is a week after they lost their two best receivers, their best running back, their best quarterback. So I mean, and now
Yeah,
their
it's
and now their season's over. So this isn't like a circle the wagons.
right.
We have to come out strong for this game. We win and our season's still alive. The Giants are cooked at this point. So I agree. I mean, I like the Giants, but would I be surprised if the Rams blow them out? No, not at all. So it's
No, and when when we're taking underdogs, one thing we always like to look at is can that team win outright,
Absolutely. Yeah.
or are you hoping for a backdoor cover, and you
No.
never want to be doing that. So next game, Chargers at Ravens, very very intriguing game here for the
Yeah.
Chargers. I think you could argue it's probably the biggest game maybe of the season for them up to this point. I mean, I guess the KC game was big, but I mean they have a chance here to go to 5-1 and really, um, you
Yeah.
know,
Put their foot
take
on
hold
Casey's
of
throat.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and take hold of that division. And as we talk, the Ravens are struggling in this Monday night game against the Colts. It looks like they
23.
got it down to the goal line there and fumbled. Maybe it looks like the play's under review now. So, we'll see if the Ravens can come back in this one. But, Ravens minus 3.5 here. This line was 5.5 prior to the start of the season. So, the Ravens obviously have a ton of injuries. So, that 2 point, move from the summer line's probably warranted just based on all of their injuries. But, um, the Chargers are playing really well. And man, I mean, I like to bet numbers, and, this may sound, crazy, but we've said it to a lot, we've said it to each other a lot. I mean, if the Ravens are laying 3.5 in this game, I mean, are they not begging you to take Los Angeles? I mean, it's not three, it's not 2.5 to entice you to maybe take the Ravens. Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and especially if the Ravens lose this game, I mean, if this line stays 3.5 throughout the week, I mean, as hot as the Chargers have been, I would think you'd have to look at the Ravens just based on that line. But what do you make this one?
Yeah. So again, I mean, I made this line Ravens minus 2.5. And that was before making any adjustments for this game. So, barring any injury. I mean, I think you have to downgrade them though for this game. I mean, the Ravens are a tough team because they're a missed or a 66-yard record field goal and a missed field goal or I guess a fumble away for the Chiefs fumbling in that
Yeah,
game. Really, I mean, and yeah, and then I guess against yeah, they killed the Broncos. But my point is, a lot of these wins could have easily went either way. They're a hard team for me to get a grasp on. And same with LA. I ended up not betting that game, but I leaned the Browns pretty heavily in that game. I just wanted to see what was going to happen there, so I could get a better opinion on each of those teams. And really, I mean, that game was a coin flip ultimately. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what. I mean, Justin Herbert is. I mean, he's playing at an absolute MVP level in his second year. I love Brandon Staley. I mean, he's a very analytically driven guy, but he doesn't do it, kind of like Lane Kiffin in college, where he's just going haphazardly on fourth downs. It's calculated, and I love his style. That team, yeah. I mean, they're probably the biggest surprise to me so far. I liked them to be a playoff team, but I didn't think that they'd, be maybe contending for the bye in the AFC. So,
right,
but I'm
right.
with you. I mean, this line's pretty much spot on for me. I have a 1 point difference, but I mean, it is going across the key number of 3. So, I mean, yeah, I'm hoping that maybe after this game, that line can drop down to 2.5 and then, get on them. But if it stays put, I'm with you. I mean, that number's probably pretty telling. So, yeah, I mean, I got to rewatch this game tape because I haven't watched a lot of it, and do some analyzing because this is a game that I definitely want to watch, and um, it's probably a good game to have action on just because as you said, that number is telling, but it's a it's a tough game at first glance.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. It's a game definitely worth watching. Whether or not you're able to find an edge is a different story. But very interested in watching that one. So Packers Bears, Packers coming off of that win at Cincinnati. Um, you know, we had Cincinnati as one of our consensus plays. It was +3 when we tweeted it out on Sunday. I talked on the pod about getting the +4 on Monday, and that just goes to show you how important getting the best of
CLV.
these numbers
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, that's a great bet.
Because it comes into play, and so the Packers coming off of a win. Um, Bears 2 in a row now. Beat the Lions, traveled to Las Vegas, won that game, and now back at home playing the Packers. Packers -4.5. This is a game where the Bears come into it. They were swept last year by the Green Bay Packers, and so you know, I don't know. I know you don't put a lot of stock into the revenge angle maybe of a team who was swept the previous year, but um, I'm kind of surprised by this line. I thought maybe Packers would be maybe 6. What's your line on this game?
Yeah, and I'm as high as anybody on Green Bay. Like, they're still my pick to ultimately win the Super Bowl. But that doesn't mean that you have to bet them every week. We faded them last week. I pushed. You got that good number and you won. But this line for me, I have Green Bay. I kept them the same, so I have them rated as 106.5, which is good for third in the league. As I said in the beginning, Tampa's 107.5. I had to upgrade Buffalo to 107, and so Green Bay's right there. So Green Bay is still one of my top teams, and I have this line spot on. I have Green Bay -5, so half a point. I think it's 5 in some spots even. But I'll tell you what, I love the Bears in this spot. Green Bay, I think they're going to win a lot of games this year by 3, in that fashion. We've seen it a few times now, where, they're losing or the game's up in the air. It's a coin flip in the fourth quarter, and Rodgers makes a great play, to get them in position,
Right.
To win by 3. We saw it against the Niners in dramatic fashion. And, that game couldn't have been more dramatic. I was actually praying for a tie, so I would get the win with my +3.
Yeah.
And really,
Yeah, absolutely.
like it seemed like neither team wanted to win in overtime. That was just a horrendous performance by the kickers. But Carlos B.
That was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I think, like I said, I would make it, 6. And, that's one of the things, for me, in handicapping these games is, I like to look at the, public perception and, kind of see what looks easy for the public to bet. And, I don't know if this is a case. If it were Packers -3, all day long, kind of like it was against Cincinnati. And,
Right.
they won that one. So, moving on to the next game, Cardinals Browns. I think this is probably second to Chargers Ravens. Cardinals were the only undefeated team in the NFL heading into this week, 5-0. Browns -2.5 in this spot. Summer line on this game was Browns -4.5. There was a lot to be made last week. You kind of saw that line bouncing around with Cleveland and Chargers. There was a lot of talk about Mayfield's shoulder and, what it was and how serious it was. And, this is a line that I look at just at a glance and I, again, say, man, they're begging you to take Cleveland in this spot. But on the flip side, you've got a 5-0 team, catching points,
Right.
Which is, another angle, that I look for. So for me, I think, this is a game you watch, but, I don't think I can bet this game. But what do you make the Browns in this spot? I assume you have them favored.
Yeah, I have them favored. These are two teams that I have rated highly. I'm a big fan of both. I bet Kyler Murray MVP coming into the year at 16-1. So, I'm loving the start. He's the favorite right now, although it means absolutely nothing in week 6, especially when you're as small as fragile as he is. But yeah, I mean, it's been a great start for the Cardinals. I have this as Browns -3, so it's basically spot on. Um, but I think, I mean, if you look at the Cardinals' schedule, like I think they could just as easily, go. I don't want to say 0-5 because they have the Texans the following week, but they have Browns, Texans, Packers, Niners, Panthers. It's a pretty brutal schedule. So
Yeah, I mean,
I can see
we're gonna see
regression.
what
Yeah,
Arizona
yeah,
is about.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's for sure. I mean,
yeah. This is a game for me that I don't think I can bet, only because the number's pretty much spot on. And I mean, I think Arizona's legit. And if they can go into Cleveland and win, you know, that'll be the biggest statement game for them. But for the Browns, I mean, you know, they have Super Bowl aspirations, and if they lose two in a row, you know, that's going to make that division all of a sudden pretty close. Because obviously the Ravens are losing tonight; they're not coming back from this deficit.
yeah, it
Um,
doesn't look like it. And when you look at the Browns schedule, it's Cardinals, Broncos, Steelers, at the Bengals, at the Patriots. I mean, those are, you know, five very winnable games, I think. Um, maybe struggle at Cincinnati or at New England, but they've got three home games in a row here. And actually, I think I've talked myself into betting Cleveland just as we've been discussing this. I think this is a game that they maybe jumpstart their homestand and
yeah,
get back on track after
Yeah, because I mean, this is a game
after
they have to win because I mean, Cincy has a very winnable game, and Cincy. I mean,
yeah,
imagine that if they're the NFC North leader after Week 6, it's very possible. I mean, if
yeah,
the Browns lose that, it's likely. So,
right, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So game we touched on earlier. The breaking news with Gruden, Raiders at Broncos. Not a lot to say about this one. I really think just with all of that drama and nonsense that is going to come in this game. Um, I mean, I think if you bet this game, I think you need to get your head examined. I think there's too much. There's too many storylines surrounding it. The Broncos started off red hot. They've lost two in a row.
yeah,
Um, I think the line is spot on. Broncos -3. What do you have it?
yeah. My pairings would agree. Denver -3.5. So it's
Yeah,
and it's actually, I think it's the market consensus is 3.5 right now. So yeah, it's spot on. There's zero value for me there. I mean, I'm with you, backing the fired, coach. But the thing is, we looked at this last year, and it's not as profitable as you would think, right? Like it was like 500, right, against the spread.
yeah, yeah. It
Yeah,
wasn't. It's got its. I mean, I think every situation is different.
very true. Yeah,
But yeah, this is just a total pass. I
yeah.
think I felt like prior to last week and the news of this coming out that maybe they actually liked Gruden, but uh, you know,
Yeah, because the exactly because like I was thinking of fading the Raiders last week based on the news because like usually when a player makes a racist comment, they quit on the team. Like we saw that
right, right,
with the Texans a few years ago when that owner made a racist comment. But the thing is, like he's a player's coach. The players love him, and all the comments from the locker room was, what, we love Gruden. We don't think he's a racist bone in his body. That was 10 years ago. We're focused on the Bears. Like that was the consensus. But the play was, way different. And now he made, disparaging homosexual comments when there's openly homosexual players on the team. It's just a mess.
right. Yeah, it is. It's a mess,
Yeah,
and it's a game. It's a game I want no part of.
yeah, I'm with
That's
you.
for sure. So, um, moving on. I'm gonna go ahead and do the uh, Sunday night game here, and then we'll talk about the one last Sunday game because I know that's a game that you and I both agree on. We talked about prior to coming on here. Hawks Steelers. I don't really have again much to say
No,
about this one. I
me
hate
neither.
that it's the Sunday night game. I'm not looking forward to watching this trash on Sunday night. In fact, I probably won't.
No, it's
Steelers -4.5. I mean, is there? is there any value? Again, this is another game where you've got injuries, with Wilson, and I mean, what are the Steelers? I mean, I can't figure them out.
No.
Yeah, what do you have here?
Yeah. So I mean, Wilson's one of my highest rated quarterbacks in the league. He's worth 6 points to the line. Um, into my power rating number as well. I had to upgrade Pitt by a point after that win because Roethlisberger looked better, and doing so, and I'm always hesitant to make adjustments like that. So I was interested to see how I would compare, but it's spot on. I have Pitt -5. I think that's the market consensus currently. So yeah, I mean, um, yeah, the Seahawks, they're saying that Wilson may come back now sooner than anticipated. So you have the injured player theory there. Gino didn't look awful when he replaced him. He actually led them on that touchdown drive. But that Seattle defense is just atrocious. So, they're a hard team to back, especially with that Wilson. I mean, and, I've been to that Pittsburgh Stadium on a Sunday night, and that home field advantage is probably worth a full 4 points. Like it's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, those fans are drinking all day. It's raucous. I've experienced it, and yeah, I mean, I would lean Pitt there. Because Pitt, they looked pretty dead. But the thing is, that's their mo. They'll win games that you never expect them to win, but they'll lose these, easily winnable games. More so on the road
yeah,
under Tomlin than at home. But I don't know. I mean, you really can't tease this game because you're getting zero value going across zero. Taking them from 5 to 1. So yeah, I'm probably with you. I mean, it'll be a game that I watch. You know, I had a
yeah.
small wager on Seattle to win the NFC West. That's not happening. So I can pray they win, and they probably won't. I mean, I got nothing on that game.
Yeah, I got nothing here, and you know, switch back, just kind of switch gears. We went a little out of order there, but this is the game. Well, these last two games actually, um,
Yeah.
wanted to close with, Cowboys Patriots. I mean, can the Cowboys possibly continue to cover these games? I mean, at some point, the line has to be adjusted, and I think, I thought last week that maybe it was a little bit of inflation, but like, I mean, any good handicapper that looks at these games, you look at your losses, and I mean, we can sit here and say, injuries played a role, which I really think they did. But in looking back at that game, I mean, was it really? I mean, was it really an overinflation? I mean, the Giants obviously beat the Saints. Um,
Yeah,
the
because that
Cowboys
game
have
was
looked
tied.
good.
That game was tied when Jones got hurt. So,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
yeah. So it's you can debate things back and forth with that, but you always like to go back and see your losses and see kind of where you maybe made a mistake, and maybe the Cowboys weren't overvalued in that spot like we thought, but I think this is a spot where they definitely are. Dallas -4. The summer line on this game was you know New England -1, and that was under the assumption that my boy Scam Newton was going to be the quarterback, and I think that I think Mac Jones has done a good enough job, to really, if this line were produced in the summer and Mac Jones were the quarterback, I still think it's New England -1. Um, we've talked about the clown show that was Dallas, during Hard Knocks, and
Yeah.
just looking to fade them, and I think this is the perfect spot. They've scored a ton of points these last couple of weeks, and Patriots, I guess if you will, escaped with victory against a bad team. That came as no surprise to us.
Right.
We expected New England to win that game, expected them to struggle. So yeah, I mean, I think this is I think this is New England, and this is probably my favorite play of the week. It's in that 425 spot. It's an easy money line play to throw into a parlay if you like the Cowboys. So yeah, I mean New England plus the 4 here for me betting wise. But what do you make this line?
Yeah, so I mean it's interesting because this line opened at Dallas -1, um, which is what I make it, and it's since been bet up to Dallas -4. So that tells me that my ratings are on par with what the lines makers have, which I always like to see. I mean, because ultimately, um, there shouldn't be a huge discrepancy in your lines. Like looking back in hindsight, that should have been a red flag that there was such a discrepancy last week. I mean, that's one of the biggest I ever had, for the Panthers against the Eagles. Like that line is definitely short. And, I think that the odds makers knew something there. I think they were just ahead of the game on how bad Darnold can be in the second half. You know,
Awful, that's for
yeah,
sure.
which was masked by their defense, which was inflated by a soft schedule. So, there's a lot of things that are to be accounted for. But my point is here, yeah, I mean, I think my ratings on these teams are fair, and I'm with you. I mean, Dallas, they were the worst against the spread team last year. Now, to be fair, they were injured and everything like that. And now they're the best this year, haven't lost. I've only bet against them twice, even though I was very anti-Dallas coming into the year. Took them last week, obviously, and then took the Chargers against them, which really isn't a play that I regret. Their only loss in the year, and that was a game where it was really 11 on 14 with the Zebras.
Yeah,
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 and
they got a little bit of help in that game.
yeah, and and one thing that I like to do, and it's not 100%, but it's definitely just a small part of the handicap is, these books like DraftKings and FanDuel, I believe, they're constantly updating the odds on teams to make the playoffs. They're actually updating the season win total every week, adjusting the lines or the juice or both. And heading into that Bucks game, when they were one and two, and they're a 7 point underdog, so likely 1-3. The Pats' odds to miss the playoffs was only -120, so it seemed extremely low given that they're going to be 1-3. And if you look at their schedule, if they win this game, they have the Jets, then they have, um, you know, I guess they have the Chargers, the Panthers, the Browns, the Falcons. So actually, I mean, it's not as easy as I thought. But my point is, I mean, this is pretty much a must-win game for New England. The Bills,
Yeah,
they look unstoppable. I mean, the Bills are going to win the division. The Patriots have almost no hope to win the division. But, this is, I mean, the West is looking pretty loaded. I mean, unless the Chiefs keep losing, I think, I mean, the Titans and the Colts, that's probably going to be a close race down the stretch. But I think both those teams, especially with the extra game, will have 9 or 10 wins. So, I mean, New England, I think, has a chance to sniff the playoffs. But, games like this at home, where they're, just a small underdog, it's going to have to be, games they have to win. And, like Belichick at home as an underdog, I forget the exact stats. I had it because I was, I took them against the Bucks, but it's a great record. It's close to 70%. So, I mean, and Mac Jones keeps looking better and better each week. So, and that Dallas defense, even though I mean, yeah, Trevion Diggs, he's had a pick every game. Micah Parsons is looking like the rookie of the year. Dan Quinn's looking like a genius, turned around a historically bad defense. But I'm still not buying it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll keep betting against Dallas all year and keep losing. But this is a
yeah,
spot. This is a spot that I agree with you. I mean, this is just from everything that we do, handicapping wise. It fits angles, it fits trends, it fits the numbers. So really, yeah. I
yeah,
mean, at first glance, this is easily my favorite look of the week.
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I know this is an NFL podcast, but hey, our 50 to 1 future on the Red Sox just got a little bit sweeter as they knocked off the Rays tonight.
They
So
got it done. Nice. I
they got it
saw.
done.
Thank God.
We're one series away from
Let's go.
Red Sox in the World Series, and like I said, that 50 to 1 ticket that we took prior to the season looking great. So yeah,
Let's
real
go.
quick, we'll finish this up. I know this has been a little longer than what we maybe anticipated, but just a couple thoughts. Bills Titans. Bills minus 4.5. Critical game. Bills back-to-back road games. Titans coming off of a very easy win against the Jaguars. What do you make this line?
Yeah, I make it Buffalo -3. What it opened at again, immediately bet up to Buffalo 5. Um, yeah, and that's after I upgraded the Bills a full point after that victory over the Chiefs, and I kept the Titans the same because, I mean, they did what they were supposed to do, and ultimately, that game was a little bit closer than the Bucks were indicated, but Tennessee, this is the biggest game of their season. They don't have many primetime games this year. You know, I've been in this stadium as well, not in prime time, but I don't give them a ton of home field advantage, but it is the Music City. The fans get jacked up for night games, and yeah, the Bills stock obviously couldn't be higher. That was such a monumental game for them because they were humiliated twice by the Chiefs last year. They really seemed like a JV team getting whooped on, by the varsity in the playoffs. And
Right.
and the Bills, everything they did in the offseason was built to beat the Chiefs. So, that was really the ultimate litmus test for them to see, if what they did all offseason was going to pay off. And it did in spades. But this just seems like a huge letdown spot now. And let's not forget, the Bills lost week 1 against Pitt. Now, sometimes when teams lose week 1, you know, teams remember that, or, bettors remember that for the rest of the season, and it throws them off. So I don't want to hold it against them too much. Every team's entitled to a bad game. But, the Bills, as good as they've looked, they're definitely not impervious. And yeah, I think this line's just a little bit too high. Hopefully the Titans get Julio Jones back, and if so, I actually would love that over. So it's probably a great bet on the under with as bad as I am on totals. But yeah, and that's the thing. The Titans could just play keep away, and Henry's just been absolutely next level. What he's done over these past 3 years is historic. So
Well, and
yeah,
you remember this game last year, Titans 42-16, just you
yep,
know, took it to the Bills. So yeah,
exactly.
that'll be an interesting game come Monday night, and you know, that'll conclude our episode for this week. We'll be back each week to give you guys the opening lines as well as the um, you know power ratings that Steve has, and we'll give you kind of some insight. I guess unfortunately for this week, kind of everything was spot on. So if you were looking to find some discrepancy, not a lot there this week, but I think there definitely will be as the season goes on, and you start to see maybe a little bit of overreaction. So
For
we'll
sure.
be back later this week, and we'll have our picks as well as some fantasy advice. Take care, guys.